Hello students, my name is Dr. S. Arun Kumar, Department of Accident and Emergency Care Technology, School of Allied Sciences, VIMS Campus, Vinaya Mission Research Foundation, Salem. So today we are discuss about the topic of the disaster management. So the disaster management is the most important thing in current situations because currently the Iran-Israel war is happened. So definitely learn for the disaster management. So, what is a disaster management? So, first we are learn further what is a disaster. So, a disaster is a sudden and overwhelming even the disruption of the normal life, causing the widespread damage, loss of lives and environment and destructions. It can arise the natures or human-made causes, often executed the ability of affected the communities to cope with impacts and requiring the external intervention. Disasters vary in magnitude and intensity and scales but share common features over things affecting the system and infrastructure and ecosystems. So type of the disaster is basically divided into two types. First is the natural disasters. So natural disaster occurs due to natural phenomena or event. Unpredictable. It is an unpredictable thing for natures. So and next is a human-made disaster. So human-made disaster is a disasters human actions and negligence and technical failures. So natural disaster is based on the geophysics disasters, earthquake, volcano eruptions, tsunamis, and landslide mass movement for others. So it's a natural disaster for the forest fire, volcano eruptions, cyclones, floods, so whatever, etc. So natural disaster is a hydrological disaster. The floods, as I'm currently living for the Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu every year affecting for the floods in December month and most affected for the Shishore areas. So flood. And it is a meteorologically the cyclones and torus, powerful rotations, many other things happens. And climatical disaster, it is a heat waves, cold waves. So biological disasters, epidemics and pandemics. So pandemics we all say for the COVID-19 is one of the biological disasters. Insect infestation. So large scales of inventions of pest. So many agriculture's inventions. So human-made disasters is we are everyone knows for the industrial accidents, nuclear disaster, environmental disaster, and conflict and wars. Currently, we are facing for the world war situations and technological disasters. So it is a picture for man-made. So forest fires and wars, nuclear plants, and oil rigs. So many other man-made disasters happens every day in the world. So characteristics for the disaster, it is the first thing for the, it's unpredictable. It is the most important, is the unpredictable speed and scales and magnitude and intensities, vulnerability and disruption and alternate on after recovery. So disaster preparedness and planning management. So as an emergency paramedic, in everyone should learn for the disaster preparedness and planning. So disaster preparedness. So first we are assessing for the risk assessment. We are currently stay for the Salem. So we are assess for the what is suddenly tomorrow happen for disaster or how we are, which type of the disaster happen and there's the impacts and factors of the socio-economically and what is the medical impacts. So first we are doing for the risk assessment and next for the public awareness and education. So it's a classical examples of the Chennai floods. So Chennai is every year affecting for the floods. So creating for the public awareness and every colleges and schools surroundings for the Chennai, we are educated for the students and local peoples, officers and policemen. So we are educating for that kind of the persons. And yearly warning system, we are creating for the yearly warning systems and 24/7 identifying methods on stockpiling and emergency kit. So in case it happen for the floods in December month, so we are procured for the emergency kits and stockpiling for the August and September month. We are purchased for the emergency kits. It is a normal thing. So next is a training and drills, and every 6 months once should conduct for the training and drills for the emergency. So what you do and what is the next procedure. So the medical and civils and what is we are doing for the medically and civilians and what is the how to save the lives and properties, and evacuation and planning. What is your evacuation plannings for the in case of suddenly building is collapsed? So how to evacuate the patients and publics? So we have a additional evacuations plannings we must create it. So disaster planning. So disaster planning. So first is a contingency plan and coordination mechanisms and resource and allocations. So first detailed action planning for the detailed with different type of disasters and outline roles and responsibilities and protocols for the emergency response. And coordination mechanism is to ensure the collaboration among the government agencies and humanitarian organization and emergency services and local communities for the unified and effective responses. And resource allocation. So ensure the adequate resources is a medical supplies, rescue equipments, foods and waters also. So it is a resource allocation is the most important role and very challenging role in the disasters. So next is the infrastructure strengthening for the reinforcing for the building and bridges and other infrastructures. So before floods or before cyclones periods, we are strengthening for the infrastructures and healthcare preparedness, preparing medical teams and hospitals and first responders to manage mass casualties to provide emergency medical care and post-disaster recovery, developing long-term recovery strategies including rebuilding infrastructures, restoring livelihoods and providing psychological supports to affected individuals and communities, and community participations to engaging the local communities in planning and decision making to ensure that disaster plan are tolerated to their specific needs and vulnerabilities. So next is a key components of the disaster preparedness for risk identification and hazards analysis and emergency plans and resource allocations and public awareness and training and drills. Hazards vulnerability analysis HVA. So it is a systematic process used to identify and assess the potential hazards that could impact the community, organizations, facilities. To analyze, focus on understanding the types of hazards, their likelihood and severity of the impact, that the help organization prioritize risk and allocated resources in efficiently. And next is identify the hazards. So chemical spills or terrorist attack, earthquake, floods, so like this. And assessing the vulnerability and impact analysis and risk prioritizations. So next, joint commission requirements. So joint commissions means so coordinate the teams. So emergency management plans, hazards vulnerability assessment, and communication and coordination. In communication and coordination, it is the most important in the disaster management, because why it's flood is happen or earthquake is happen. So first we are facing for the communication labs. So first we are ensuring for the communications and coordinations and resource and assess management. So hospital must ensure the availability of the essential resources such as the medical supply, backup powers and transportations in the event of disasters. Staffs trainings and drills. So regular training and disaster drills must be conducted to ensure the staff readiness. So hospital community coordinations, integrated response planning and information sharing and multi-aid arrangements and patient sure management and public education and engagements. So next is a national response assets. The national response framework provide the guidelines for the how whole community governments and non-governmental organization and private sector should work together to disaster response. So first is the national incidents management systems, and next is the federal assistance and strategical national stop slips and national disaster medical systems and coordinators and homeland security and public health agencies, western model agencies. So training and drills. So training and disaster drills are crucial elements of the disaster preparedness. Ensure that all personal involvements in emergency response are familiar to their roles and responsibilities. Drills also help the identify and weakness in the disaster plan and provide the opportunities to refine the response strategies. So next is a stimulated disaster scenarios and multi-agency drills and staff's roles and responsibilities, continuous improvement and mandatory and ongoing training. So next is a hospital emergency operations plan. So every hospitals should have prepared for the EOP, hospital emergency operations plan. So incidents command system. So first we create for the incidents command system, ICS. So it is a EOP based on the incidents command system, a standardized approach to managing the emergencies and ensure coordination and control over the operations and personnel and resources. And response phases, it is a mitigations, preparedness and response recovery. So mitigations sectors identify the risk and implementations and measures and reduce the impacts. And preparedness is a training, drills, stockpiling and necessary resources. So response team, so activating the EOP and manage the emergency event. So next losses recovery, restoring normal hospital functions and provide the long-term care. And last is the staff's roles and responsibility. Each staff members are assigned the specific duty during an emergency and based on the roles with the hospitals, this ensure the smooth operations and minimize the confusions. So coordination with external agencies, it is a EOP emphasizes communications and coordinations with external organizations such as the public health agencies, emergency services, and government bodies. So resource management with the EOP outline how the hospital will manage essential supplies, equipment, and staffs during the emergency to ensure the continuity of care. Purpose of EOP is continuously of care, minimizing the disruptions and staff and patient safety and efficiency response. And activate the EOP. So incident detection, activation decisions, and notify the key personnel and implement incidents command systems and scale response as needed. So it is a EOC, established operation center. So functions of EOCs. So command and control. What is the functions? That means what is the rules? The commands and control, information gathering, resource coordination, internal and external communications, components and EOCs, incidents commander and operation sectors, logistical sectors and planning sectors, financial sections. And purpose of EOC, centralized commands and real-time discussion making and efficient communications. Assess hospital capacity. So first we are assessing for the bed availability for ICUs, emergency departments, and also as a ward. Otherwise, we are considering for the non-clinical spaces such as the conference rooms. Also, we are measuring. The next is a staff levels. So, staff's levels of healthcare providers, including the doctors, nurse, and A&M staffs, and hospital means reassigning staffs, and the administration staff are additional requirements for the administration staff also. So, for next is a medical supplies. So medical supplies means so PPE kits, medication status, and ventilators counts, and other critical equipment counts, and ration supplies, and request the additional stock and extra resources. So next is a infrastructure and utility. And evaluated the hospital infrastructure and ensure the critical systems such as water, electricity, and others also. So next is a functional probability of the backup power systems, that means the generators and communication networks and maintain operations. So next is the establish communication systems. So established communications, it is divided for the four components. First is the internal communication. So internal communications means the inside hospital communication, ensure the clear, timely communication between departments to departments, staffs to doctors, and leadership roles persons to phone systems and radios, hospitals, intercoms, and digital communications platforms, emails and hospital entrances. But email is not the correct possible devices. It is an intercom or radios, hand mics. So other is a most important roles, crucial roles plays that internal communication. So external communication, it is also an important thing because of the hospital to hospital communication. It is under for the external communication. So maintain the open line communication with the external partners, including the public health agencies for government agencies and emergency medical systems for 108 systems and government authorities for the civil officers and police officers and militaries also, and satellite phones and two-way radios and internet-based systems can be used for the causes of the infrastructure spending. So next is a public communication. So public communications, it's provide for the necessary because 150 patient admitted in our hospitals. So 50 patients attend us in outside of the hospitals waiting for the current status of the patient's health and other informations. So it's create for the panic also. So public communication is the most important things for used can for the social medias and the public press and for the government officials informations we are sharing for the public communications. So next, the backup system. So, it is one of the most important because this all system is failures. We are used for the backup systems for the communication system in place causes the primary methods due to the power outrages and other infrastructure damages. So next is a supply management. It is the most important and very challenging role of the a disaster period. So it is key aspects for the supply management is the inventory management. Hospitals should maintain for the up to date of the inventory in crucial supplies such as the medications, PPE, ventilators, and oxygen and other medical equipments. So next is a stock billing. So pre positions of stock billings and assistance supplies can hospital managing for the external supply chains, meaning the distributed. Supply chain coordinations. So hospitals should work closely within the suppliers and distributors. It is the most important and ensure the continuous flow of the critical supplies. Establishing and relationships with multi suppliers helps the mitigation risk of the associated shortage and resources rations. So resources. So it says the emergency hospitals may need ration supplies based on the patient priority and severity situations. It could involve the limiting uses of the certain equipment on critical cases and requesting external supports. When the internal resources are exaggerated and hospital can request to assess the regional and national stock spillings for the strategical national stock spilling and to the multi-aid arrangements with other hospitals. It is a key aspects for the supplies management. So supply management it is the most important and very challenging. First, previously I says because we are facing for the COVID also. So COVID period we are facing for the many challenges for the hospital equipments and most importantly oxygen supplies is a very important supplies. But we are facing a lot of oxygen demands. So it is a most important thing. Thank you. So thank you for listening for my topic.